Welcome to another film summary. Before we dive into it, please go ahead and subscribe. Alright, sit back and enjoy. West of Costa Rica, young Eric Kirby Trevor Morgan and his mother's boyfriend Ben Hildebrand Mark Herelick are tandem parasailing close to a lush island. The tow line is repeatedly tugged while the towboat travels through a mist. The two guys driving the boat vanish when they emerge from the fog, causing the boat to crash against rocks. Unhooking their line from the boat, the paragliders attempt to regulate their drop to the desolate island. In his backyard sandbox, young Charlie Blake Michael Bryan is playing with dinosaurs. His baby-wearing mother, Dr. Ellie Sattler Laura Dern, a paleobotanist, has to point out that he's too young for that much knowledge when paleontologist Dr. Alan Grant Sam Neill tries to. Recent research has shown that velociraptors, his main research subject, were much intelligent than had been thought. Ellie advises Alan to call if he has any questions before he departs. Because his lecture audience is mainly interested in learning about his experiences at Jurassic Park or the San Diego Tyrannosaurus incident, Alan's newest auditorium speech, which speculates on sonic talents and the potential for raptor communication, is drawing little attention. He claims in one response that nothing would be able to convince him to go back to the dinosaur islands. Men for hire Cooper John Deal and M. Nash Bruce say, young test a potent big caliber weapon on a desert airfield or junkyard while booking agent Mr. Udesky Michael Jeter calls Mr. Kirby to convince him that he has selected the best squad and that everything would be taken care of. When Alan gets back to the dig site, he informs Billy Brennan Alessandro Nivola that their financing is about to expire. Billy demonstrates to him a model he made of the raptor skull's hearing chamber, which makes a sinister noise when he blows through it. Paul Kirby William H. Macy, who interrupts them, extends an invitation to supper. Billy accepts on Alan's begrudging behalf. Paul and Amanda Kirby Tia Leone, who are daring, ask Alan to take them on a flight over Isla Sorna, the second island of Jurassic Park, and they also make a significant donation to help keep the dig over the water. A small aircraft heads for Isla Sorna. Billy organizes his photographic gear while telling Alan how the camera bag previously saved his life during an accident while flying. The voice of Billy awakens Alan from his dream as he awakens to find the plane devoid of passengers, and a talking velociraptor screaming his name. The Kirbys and the crew begin eagerly peering out the windows as they fly above land, and Alan makes an innocent attempt to point out the paleontological landmarks. Alan rushes to the cockpit to stop them when he sees they're going to land. But one of the men knocks him out. When he awakens, they are on the ground calling out for Eric in the undergrowth. Alan tells them that their shouting is unacceptable, which leads to increased shouting and audible growling. Alan claims it's something bigger, while Billy believes it's a Tyrannosaurus. They start the plane and accelerate down the runway. As the plane tries to avoid a collision, a massive dinosaur bursts from the forest and savagely devours Cooper. Pilot Nash knows he cannot stop. The aircraft crashes because the gasoline lines were ruptured. As the group is gathering their composure, they discover that the radio is broken and attempt to call for assistance via Paul's satellite phone, but are unable in doing so. Nash inserts the phone firmly inside his vest pocket. A tall dinosaur tears away the front of the plane a little while later, grabbing Nash while shrieking. As soon as he hits the ground, the dinosaur picks him up and devours him. Everyone rushes to the back of the wreck as the monster turns back to the plane, forcing it to become unbalanced and crash to the ground. The dinosaur repeatedly rolls the fuselage, sending the passengers flying until it finally rips a hole in the side. They flee as it sticks its snout inside and come across a feeding. Alan tells them to stop moving, but they all start running. As the humans once more run, the two enormous dinosaurs clash and engage in a combat. During the conflict, the larger dinosaur breaks the Tyrannosaur's neck. Alan just about makes it out alive. Finally given a chance to breathe, Alan punches Paul, sending him to the ground. After 8 weeks, the youngster went missing, and now they know about Eric. Disgusted, Alan decides that it would be better to head for the coast and wait for help than to search for the youngster. Given that there is little possibility of either of them surviving, the group decides to go with them. Alan explains that the first dinosaur was of the genus Spinosaurus, especially Spinosaurus aegypticus. When they bring down the parasail, Ben's rotting corpse swings down and entangles Amanda, contrary to Alan's suggestion that they store it for later use. She rushes to a nearby creek while inconsolable and tells Paul that she is more worried about Eric than Ben. They summon Alan. He mutters, "Raptor," and the group immediately moves on. Billy's absence is noticed by Alan, who must return to get him. He tells Billy that he was behind because he needed to take a picture of the raptor nest. They locate the complex of buildings in the park and enter, but a raptor's shadow darts by a window. While Paul fumbles for change, Billy breaks open a candy machine, and as they eat, they enter the incubation chamber. When Amanda gets close to one of the full-grown heads in the tank, a raptor leaps out from behind it as she passes by the tanks, where she can see larger and larger dinosaur fetuses. The raptor confines Billy and Amanda behind a cage door as they rush into a cage area, but when it starts to climb and sniff the air above, they push the barrier aside and capture it. The raptors outside call out to one another. Alan leads the people into the herd of brachiosaurs. A raptor was waiting for Udesky when he ran into the clearing. It punched him in the back with its claw before flying away. Billy, Paul, and Amanda scale a tree, but Amanda feels they should save Udesky since when they call to him he moves. She attempts to approach him but slips and falls off the tree, swinging upside down as two raptors below rush up at her. Billy discovers the raptors used Udesky to set a trap as they raise her back up. After failing, one of the raptors breaks Udesky's neck and takes off. Alan is trapped by raptors and is looking death in the face when suddenly some tear gas canisters are thrown into the area and their smoke confuses and drives the raptors off. A strangely garbed figure jumps out and leads Alan away. To his hideout, it is Eric, amazingly alive. He has used supplies from the complex, but also his own ingenuity to survive, learning how to cope with the various dinosaurs. He has read Alan's books and notices that Alan liked dinosaurs before he visited Jurassic Park. Spending time together, Amanda blames herself for thrill-seeking with boyfriend Ben because Eric would have been safe at home with dependable and a bit dull Paul. He tells her it's not her fault. Eric and Alan emerge from his hideout, and Alan spots a boat down a canyon. Elsewhere, Billy explains to Amanda that they will not search for Alan because the agreed plan is to head for the coast, and Paul supports him by saying it's logical that the big dinosaurs would be in the center of the island, so Eric is probably headed for the coast as well. In the meantime, Eric explains to Alan that he stayed near the compound because that's where people would look for him, and that the dinos get bigger towards the coast. Suddenly, Eric hears a noise. His dad's satellite phone and the jingle from his tile store. He runs recklessly through the jungle, calling for his mother and father. They happen to be within earshot of his cries and also run in his direction, calling. They meet at a tall steel fence, topped with spikes and lined with nylon cord. After happy greetings, he mentions the satellite phone, and they realize who had it last. The unfortunate Nash. And as they look up, the Spinosaurus has entered the area on Alan and Eric's side of the fence. Alan whispers, "Run!" They run along the fence. The dino chases after them, and luckily, they find a space they can get through to the other side before it catches them. After snapping at them through the gap, it seemingly stalks off. As they make for a nearby building, the Spinosaur crashes through the fence. The group runs inside the building and slams a large steel door which surprisingly holds off the dinosaur. Billy anxiously asks Alan for his camera bag back. Alan, thinking that Billy has placed too much importance on his bag, opens it and finds 2 raptor eggs. Billy claims he was going to use the profits to fund their dig back home. Alan is livid, but stops himself before throwing the eggs out the window. He explains that the raptors wouldn't realize they no longer had the eggs, so he keeps them. He harshly tells Billy he's no better than the people who build the park for profit. As they descend the stairs to the canyon below, they find the curious screened platforms precarious, so they have to go one at a time. Alan and Amanda make it across a bridge, but Eric is halfway across when Alan realizes that the deposit on the handrail is bird excrement, and that they are actually in a giant bird cage for pteranodons. Eric is picked up by a mama bird and dropped on a cliff perch, evidently as food for some hatchlings. He runs, but there is no way down. Billy is determined to save him and jumps off a bridge using the parasail. Eric grabs on and they continue to descend the canyon. Eric falls and makes it to shore, but Billy's parachute gets hung up on the side of a cliff face, with an angry Taro harassing him. Amanda gets to Eric, but he is concerned for Billy and has to be pulled away to safety. Amanda and Eric leave through the gate, but it does not latch behind them. Billy manages to unbuckle his harness and fall into the water, but the flyers are quickly after him. Alan and Paul run down, but he yells at them to get away. A group of the pteranodons are quickly after him, and the water around him runs red. A Taro turns a hostile eye on the two men, and they beat a hasty retreat, plunging into the water and swimming out from under the cage wall. The group boards the boat and pulls it away, and eventually Paul gets the motor running. Amanda seems impressed by his competence. Eric gives his sympathies to Alan for Billy, and Alan expresses regret over his last words to Billy. He realizes that Billy was just young, and that there are astronomers watchers like paleontologists and astronauts. It's the difference between imagining and seeing. As day breaks, the boat glides past a spectacular field of dinosaurs. It's dark again, and Paul suddenly stops the boat to listen for a noise. It's the satellite phone once again. As their eyes sweep the shore, they see large mounds of feces clearly gnash, and the phone have passed all the way through the Spinosaur. They bring the boat to shore and shove their arms deep into the mounds, pulling out bones and other items until the phone is discovered. Ignoring the timeshare caller, they take the phone. To their terror, a dinosaur suddenly pokes its nose into the area only to walk away because they perhaps smell too badly to be eaten. Later, they are back on the boat and it's raining. Paul explains there will only be enough juice in the battery for one call, and it definitely should not be to the US Embassy. Eric notices activity in the water. Alan says they are bonitos and wonders what has spooked them. He orders Paul to get the engine running again and rapidly dials the satellite phone. Unfortunately, little Charlie picks up. Alan tries to get him to take the phone to Ellie and reminds Charlie that he's the dinosaur man. Charlie goes to take the phone to his mom, but she is outside bidding his dad goodbye and he can't open the door. He gets distracted watching Barney on TV, but then remembers the phone again and goes to find Mom. In the meantime, the engine fails to catch, and as the Spinosaurus attacks the boat, the phone is knocked from Alan's hand. They are forced to take shelter in a caged area of the boat, but the Spinosaurus persists in his attacks, puncturing the gas tank and tearing things up. When Ellie gets the phone, there is nobody there, but Charlie tells her it's the dinosaur man. Bemused, she does a call back, and the satellite phone starts ringing. A lucky tip of the boat slides the phone to Alan's reach once again, but the Spinosaurus has dislodged the cage from the boat and is knocking it into the water. While Ellie is asking if he's on a cell phone because the connection is so terrible, Alan only has time to shout Site B and the river before he goes under and the call is disconnected. Little Charlie holds up his arms and growls at her, saying, "Dinosaur man." Her face grows horrified and she begins dialing again. The group runs to the shore and sees a man with a megaphone calling for Dr. Grant. The Kirbys run forward waving their arms, saying it's a very bad idea, as Alan did at the beginning. However, the sole figure on the beach is quickly backed up by helicopters, troop landing ships, and a great deal of firepower. As they board a helicopter, they are in for one more shock. A bandaged but alive Billy is on a stretcher inside. As the choppers fly away, they are passed by Pteranodon flying free.